The Tallahassee Police Department runs on routine. Missing pets, traffic violations, the occasional domestic dispute. But on that humid morning in May 2021, routine shattered when a gaunt man with hollow eyes walked through the glass doors, clutching a worn duffel bag. "My name is Lionel Greaves," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I've been dead for 16 years. The officer at the desk froze. Not because the statement was absurd, people with mental health issues made strange claims daily, but because he recognized the name. Everyone in that department knew about the Greaves case, the boating accident, the body never found, the grieving widow who'd collected $750,000 in life insurance. Yet here stood Lionel Greaves, breathing, speaking, very much alive. Have you ever wondered what it would take for someone to vanish completely from their own life? To abandon everything, home, career, identity, and watch from afar as loved ones mourn your death? Maybe you know someone who disappeared without explanation, or perhaps you fantasized about walking away when life became too heavy. We all have breaking points. I need to confess, Lionel continued, placing his bag on the counter. There was a murder. The room went silent. This wasn't just a man returning from the dead. This was the beginning of a story that would expose how desperation, betrayal, and revenge can transform ordinary people into criminals. The truth about Lionel Greaves would shock the entire community. Wait until you see who was really pulling the strings. Welcome back to Altar of Secrets, where ordinary marriages reveal their hidden truths. Thank you to our loyal subscribers and a warm welcome to first-time viewers joining us today. On this channel, we transform shocking true events into powerful narratives that highlight the warning signals most people miss until it's too late. Our stories aren't just about crimes, they're about the human decisions that lead good people down destructive paths. If you're new here, this is the best moment to join our community by hitting the subscribe button and turning on notifications bell so you don't miss our other day's uploads. Drop a like if you're already wondering what pushed Lionel to fake his own death, and let us know in the comments which country you're watching from. Our global community brings fascinating perspectives to each case. Now, let's return to Tallahassee, where a dead man walks alive with a shocking confession. Before he became a ghost, Lionel Greaves lived a life so normal it was almost invisible. In 2005, at 38, he managed logistics for Eastern Atlantic shipping, a job that required meticulous attention to detail, but offered little advancement. His desk sat in the corner of a beige office park on Tallahassee's west side, where he tracked cargo containers crossing oceans while his own life stayed firmly anchored in place. Home was a modest 3-bedroom in Oak Haven subdivision. The mortgage payments stretched their budget thin, but Tamsin had insisted on the neighborhood for its school district. She worked as a guidance counselor at North Tallahassee High, beloved by students for her straight-talking advice and no-nonsense approach to their problems. Tamsin could spot a lie from across the room, a colleague later told police. Ironic, considering. Their marriage looked stable from outside. Weekly dinner dates at mid-priced restaurants, holiday cards featuring posed smiles, joint Facebook profile. They weren't passionate, but they were partners. 15 years in, they had routines instead of romance. What neighbors didn't see, Lionel's growing financial catastrophe. It started with an investment in his cousin's restaurant, $60,000 gone when the place closed 6 months later. Then came online poker, which transformed from hobby to addiction. He took out credit cards Tamsin didn't know about, borrowed from his 401k, payday loans with criminal interest rates. By early 2005, Lionel owed $215,000 with no way to pay. Collection calls came during dinner. Sleep became impossible. His boss noticed mistakes in his work. "You look awful," Rafe Dorsey told him one evening in his auto shop. "Talk to me." Rafe fixed everyone's problems in Oak Haven. Car making strange noises? Call Rafe. Tree limb threatening your roof? Rafe would handle it. 6 feet tall, with an easy smile, he collected friends like tools, useful, organized, available when needed. That night, surrounded by dismantled engines, Lionel confessed everything. The debt, the sleepless nights, how he'd considered driving his car into Appalachia Bay. Rafe listened, handed him a beer, and said 9 words that would destroy 3 lives. "There's a way out, but you won't like it." Insurance fraud, Rafe explained, voice low despite the empty garage. You're worth more dead than alive. The plan seemed elegant in its simplicity. Lionel had a $750,000 life insurance policy, taken out when they bought the house. He would stage a fishing accident, leave evidence of drowning, then disappear. Tamsin would collect the payout, clear their debts, and Lionel would start fresh in Belize with a new identity. After 2 years, once the heat died down, he'd receive his cut through offshore accounts. Rafe knew how to set up. What about Tamsin? Lionel asked. She can't know, Rafe insisted. Her reaction needs to be genuine. Insurance investigators watch for that. For 3 weeks, they refined the details. Rafe acquired a passport under the name Lionel Greaves. Lionel withdrew small amounts of cash to avoid suspicion. They researched water currents in the Gulf, body decomposition rates, and Coast Guard search patterns. The night before the planned accident, they met at Rafe's lake cabin to finalize everything. Lionel arrived first, pacing the dock, second-guessing everything. When Rafe's truck pulled up, he wasn't alone. "This is Silas," Rafe said, introducing a thin man with weathered skin. "He's helping with logistics." Silas nodded, eyes darting nervously. He looked homeless, dirty clothes, unkempt beard, the sour smell of someone who hadn't showered in weeks. "What's he doing here?" Lionel whispered as Silas used the bathroom. Rafe poured 3 whiskeys. "We need a body, Lie. Insurance won't pay without one." That wasn't the plan. Plans change. Without a body, they'll investigate for years. Tamsin will get nothing. "But how would we even—" "Already handled," Rafe said, sliding a small bottle across the table. "Sleeping pills, enough to stop his heart. He's a nobody, Lie. No family, no fixed address. Been living under the highway bridge. No one will miss him." Lionel stared at the bottle, stomach turning. "I can't murder someone." "Then stay and face your debts," Rafe shrugged. "Your choice." When Silas returned, Rafe handed him the doctored drink. "To new beginnings," he toasted. By morning, Silas was dead, dressed in Lionel's clothes, wallet in pocket, face beaten beyond recognition. Rafe took the body out on Lionel's boat while Lionel drove south in Rafe's truck, passport hidden in his sock, the taste of bile in his throat. The Coast Guard found the drifting boat 2 days later. The body washed ashore a week after that, fish eaten and bloated. Dental records were impossible. DNA testing wasn't standard procedure for accidental drownings in 2005. Lionel Greaves was declared legally dead on June 17, 2005. Tamsin Greaves wore black for 6 months. She cried at the memorial service, accepted casseroles from neighbors, and thanked the Coast Guard for their recovery efforts. Her grief seemed genuine, because it was. The insurance company investigated for 3 months before releasing the payment. Meanwhile, Lionel settled into a small apartment in Belize City under his new identity. He found work at a tourist resort, handling inventory, similar enough to his old job, but with ocean views instead of fluorescent lights. He grew a beard, developed a tan, and practiced responding to Leon. The first year passed slowly. Lionel checked his secure email daily for messages from Rafe. They came monthly at first, brief updates about Tamsin, the neighborhood, how the money was being invested until it could be safely transferred. Then the messages slowed, every other month, then quarterly. In his last email, 14 months after the death, Rafe wrote, "T is doing better, started therapy, I'm helping with house repairs, your share is growing nicely, stay patient." 6 months of silence followed. Lionel sent increasingly desperate messages. Nothing. In December 2006, using a library computer, Lionel searched Tallahassee news sites. There it was, a photo from a charity gala. Tamsin in a blue dress, smiling up at Rafe, his arm around her waist. The caption, "Tamsin Greaves and fiancé Rafe Dorsey at the Children's Hospital fundraiser." Lionel vomited in the library bathroom. By the time they married in April 2007, Lionel had lost his resort job due to drinking. He moved to a cheaper apartment, took odd jobs, and spent nights staring at their social media photos. Tamsin sold the Oak Haven house. They bought a larger one in a better neighborhood. Rafe expanded his auto shop into a dealership. They were spending his money meant to be his escape from debt. Money paid because a homeless man died wearing his clothes. For years, Lionel tracked them online. Vacations in Europe, a boat named Second Chance, Rafe's growing business empire, Tamsin's promotion to school counseling director. In 2015, they adopted a daughter. "They're living my life," Lionel told a bartender one night, drunk and careless, "with my death money. The bartender just nodded, assuming it was alcohol talking, but it wasn't. It was rage, cold, patient rage that would eventually bring Lionel Greaves back from the dead. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted? Someone who knew all your secrets and vulnerabilities? Drop a comment below about your experience with betrayal. I read every comment. At this point in our story, Lionel has lost everything twice. First to debt, then to betrayal. His best friend and wife are living large on insurance money paid for his death, while he wastes away in Belize. What would you do in his position? Would you stay hidden and try to rebuild, or would you risk everything for revenge? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're finding this story as incredible as I did when researching it, please hit that like button right now. It helps others who needs this video to see it. Your simple act today can help a life out there. Now, let's see how Lionel's exile in Belize pushed him to a breaking point that would shock everyone in Tallahassee. Belize should have been paradise. Turquoise waters, eternal summer, fresh starts. For Lionel, it became a prison of his own making. By 2010, 5 years into his death, he'd moved to a one-room apartment above a convenience store in a neighborhood tourists avoided. Cockroaches shared his bed. The ceiling leaked during rainy season. He worked cash jobs, dishwasher, night watchman, tour guide for desperate companies. His Spanish improved, his English deteriorated from lack of use. He spoke to no one about his past. At night, he drank cheap rum and checked the Dorsey Motors website. Each new expansion felt like a personal attack. In 2012, Rafe opened a second location. In 2014, he won Tallahassee Business Leader of the Year. The photo showed him with his arm around Tamsin, both tanned from a recent Bahamas trip, a trip funded by the death of a man whose name they'd never bothered to learn. Silas. The name haunted Lionel's dreams. Sometimes he imagined the homeless man sitting at the foot of his bed, asking simple questions. Why me? What made my life worth less than your debts? Lionel had no answers. In 2018, malaria nearly killed him. Fever dreams blurred reality. He confessed everything to a nurse who didn't understand English. When he recovered, something had changed. The fear that had kept him hidden for 13 years had burned away. He began planning his return. First, he needed proof. Using internet cafes, he tracked down banking records, created timelines, saved social media posts. He recorded his confession on a cheap phone, detailing every step of the plan and Rafe's murder of Silas. Then came the close call. In early 2020, he was arrested for public intoxication. The Belizean police ran his fingerprints. For 3 terrifying days, he waited in a cell. Certain extradition papers were being prepared. But his fake identity held. The system was too overloaded to cross-check international databases. It was his final warning. COVID delayed his plans, closing borders worldwide. He used the time to perfect his evidence file. By April 2021, with a smuggled vaccine card and enough cash for a bus ticket to Mexico, then a flight to Miami, Lionel Greaves began his journey home. Not to reclaim his life. That was impossible. But to ensure Rafe and Tamsin lost theirs, just as he had lost his. Justice for Silas became his mantra. Justice for the man in his grave. Detective Marla Winters had seen plenty in her 20 years with Tallahassee PD, but nothing prepared her for the dead man sitting across from her interview room table. "Start from the beginning," she said, recorder running, 2 other detectives watching through the one-way glass. For 6 hours, Lionel talked. His voice, hoarse from years of cheap cigarettes and cheaper rum, detailed everything: the debt, Rafe's plan, Silas's murder, the insurance fraud, and the betrayal. He handed over a USB drive containing emails, photos, and his video confession recorded in Belize. "Why come back?" Winters asked. "You got away with it." "No one gets away with murder," Lionel replied. "Not really." The investigation moved with unprecedented speed. By nightfall, Lionel's fingerprints confirmed his identity. DNA samples were rushed to the lab. The insurance company assigned their top fraud investigator. The district attorney himself reviewed the evidence. At 6:30 the next morning, police surrounded the Dorsey home, a 5,000-square-foot mansion in Tallahassee's most exclusive neighborhood. Rafe was arrested while making coffee. Tamsin collapsed when they told her Lionel was alive. "That's impossible," she kept saying. "We buried him." "No," the officer corrected. "You buried Silas." The media frenzy exploded. Local stations interrupted programming. National news sent crews. Dead husband returns headlines dominated every outlet. Reporters camped outside the police station, the courthouse, the Dorsey home. Investigators exhumed the body in Lionel's grave. Modern DNA testing confirmed what Lionel had confessed. The remains belonged to a man in his 50s, not Lionel Greaves. The case against Rafe solidified when police found Silas's actual identity. Samuel Porter, 54, a Vietnam veteran who'd struggled with mental illness. His sister in Ohio had reported him missing in 2005, but the case had gone cold. She wept when detectives called with news of his fate. Rafe maintained his innocence, claiming Lionel had acted alone. "I was just helping his widow recover," he told investigators. "I had no idea he was alive." But his story collapsed when police searched his lake cabin. Behind a false wall in the basement, they found the original insurance documents, Lionel's actual passport, and a journal detailing the plan, including the decision to find a substitute body. Most damning was a receipt for the sleeping pills used to kill Silas, purchased with Rafe's credit card 2 days before Lionel's death. Tamsin's involvement proved harder to establish. She claimed complete ignorance of the fraud, insisted her grief had been genuine, her relationship with Rafe developing naturally during her recovery. Then investigators found the offshore accounts, 3 of them, opened in her maiden name 6 months before Lionel's disappearance. The trial began in February 2022, with Tallahassee's courthouse surrounded by news vans and curious onlookers. Inside, 3 defendants sat at separate tables with their attorneys, former friends now unable to make eye contact. Prosecutors built their case methodically. Financial records showed Tamsin had accessed the offshore accounts multiple times before Lionel's death. Phone records revealed late-night calls between her and Rafe, dating back to 2004, a year before the insurance scheme. This wasn't just fraud, the prosecutor told the jury. This was a calculated plan by 3 people to commit murder for money, then betray one another when convenient. Rafe's defense crumbled first. His former assistant testified about mysterious cash deposits. A boat mechanic recalled Rafe asking unusual questions about water damage to bodies. Most devastating was Rafe's ex-girlfriend, who described him bragging about a foolproof plan to solve his money problems. He said his friend's life insurance was their ticket out, she testified. "I thought he was joking." Tamsin's strategy relied on portraying herself as another victim, manipulated by both men. Her attorney highlighted her community service, her work with troubled teens, her adoption of a special needs child. Character witnesses called her the most honest person they knew. Then prosecutors played the recording. Found on Rafe's cloud storage, the 3-minute audio captured Tamsin and Rafe discussing Lionel's mounting debts in 2005. "He's worth nothing to us alive," Tamsin's voice said clearly. "But dead? That policy solves everything." The courtroom fell silent. Her attorney requested a recess. Lionel's testimony spanned 2 days. He admitted his role without excuses, describing how desperation had clouded his judgment. When asked why he returned knowing he faced prison, his answer was simple: because Silas deserves justice more than I deserve freedom. The community that had once embraced the Dorsey Greaves social circle now recoiled from the truth. Parents whose children Tamsin had counseled questioned every interaction. Customers abandoned Dorsey Motors. The church where they'd renewed their vows held prayer services for souls lost to greed. After 3 weeks of testimony and 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned with verdicts. Rafe Dorsey, guilty of first-degree murder, insurance fraud, and money laundering. Tamsin Greaves, guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory after the fact. Lionel Greaves, guilty of insurance fraud and accessory to murder. The sentencing would reveal the final chapter of their twisted story. Sentencing day arrived on a rain-soaked Tuesday. The courtroom, packed for weeks, now held only the most dedicated spectators and Samuel Porter's sister, who hadn't missed a single day of proceedings. Judge Eleanor Harmon, known for her measured approach, addressed each defendant separately. Rafe Dorsey received life without parole for the murder of Samuel Porter, plus 30 years for the fraud and money laundering charges. His automotive empire, built with blood money, was liquidated, the proceeds directed to veterans' mental health programs. "You saw a vulnerable man as nothing more than a convenient solution," Judge Harmon told him. "That level of calculated cruelty deserves no mercy." Tamsin Greaves received 18 years for her role. The evidence of her pre-planning destroyed any claim of innocence. The court ordered her teaching license permanently revoked. Their adopted daughter went to live with Tamsin's sister in Orlando. "You guided young people while orchestrating this deception," the judge noted. "The betrayal extends beyond your husband to every student who trusted you." Lionel Greaves received 8 years with possibility of parole after 5, his sentence reduced for his cooperation and voluntary return. The judge acknowledged his remorse, but emphasized his responsibility. "Your debt problems didn't justify involving others in criminal activity," she said, "but your decision to face consequences shows character your co-conspirators lack." As officers led them away to separate facilities, none looked at the others. The triangle of trust, love, and betrayal that had bound them for decades was finally broken. Outside the courthouse, Samuel Porter's sister spoke briefly to reporters. "My brother wasn't a nobody," she said. "He served his country. He got sick. He deserved better than becoming a footnote in someone else's crime story." The insurance money, recovered from various accounts, was returned with interest, half to the company, half to Porter's estate. The Greaves-Dorsey case joins other notorious insurance fraud schemes that ended in tragedy. Like John Darwin, who faked his death in a canoe accident in the UK, only to be exposed when a photo surfaced of him with his wife in Panama. Or Jennifer Ramsaran, whose husband claimed she vanished while Christmas shopping, but had actually murdered her for insurance money. What makes this case particularly disturbing is how 3 ordinary people, a logistics manager, a school counselor, and an auto mechanic, transformed into criminals through a series of choices, each seemingly justified in the moment. Financial experts who reviewed Lionel's situation noted he had legitimate options. Bankruptcy protection, debt consolidation, even selling their home would have addressed his financial crisis without criminal activity. Psychologists who studied the case point to several warning signs in the relationships. Tamsin and Rafe's connection predated the fraud scheme. Their quick marriage after Lionel's death wasn't spontaneous, but calculated. For investigators, the case highlighted how technology has made faking death more difficult. Digital footprints, international databases, and advanced forensics mean such schemes rarely succeed long-term. For the average person, the lesson is simpler. Secrets between partners create dangerous spaces where betrayal can grow. Financial transparency might have prevented the entire tragedy. Samuel Porter's story reminds us how society often overlooks its most vulnerable members. His sister established a foundation in his name to help homeless veterans, ensuring his legacy extends beyond the crime that claimed his life. The true cost of this fraud wasn't measured in dollars, but in destroyed lives and wasted potential. Lionel Greaves walked into that police station carrying the weight of 16 years of lies. His confession closed a circle of deception that had claimed 4 lives, Samuel Porter's physical life, and the 3 conspirators' freedom. Today, Lionel serves his sentence in Florida State Prison. Rafe Dorsey resides in maximum security. Tamsin teaches GED classes to fellow inmates. Their story stands as a powerful reminder that the truth demands its day, whether after 16 minutes or 16 years. What would you have done in Lionel's position? Would you have come forward? What warning signs did these 3 miss that might have changed their path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story affected you, please hit that like button and subscribe to Altar of Secrets. We bring you these cases not for sensation, but for the wisdom hidden within them. Until next time, remember that the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves to justify our choices. The path back to truth may be painful, but it's the only road that leads to freedom. Stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for joining us today. See you on another story from the Altar of Secrets. Bye for now.